very apologetic, right? I am so sorry to barge into this meeting. I am so sorry to ask for an increase, right? Why are we apologizing? So that's the first thing we've got to overcome. We shouldn't be apologetic. The second thing is, if you're negotiating for an increase, so I'll start with increase. You go and look at your salary benchmark. Where are you positioned in terms of, if you're a marketing manager or an account director, what are other account directors earning in that industry? Benchmark yourself.
Beyond what she said as well, coddling is a big problem. We have fathers who are literally kids. That's why marriage at the moment is not a very viable kind of engagement. Who benefits from it? Who benefits from it? So we need to be honest with these discussions. And as men, we also have that element of, and women, we have that element of conscious and unconscious, toxic element of being supportive of the status quo because of fear. You don't know what the future holds. So once you get that information and move beyond the ignorance, I think it's much easier.
I thought this morning's event was absolutely amazing. I think anytime you get women in a room together to discuss the challenges and opportunities that we face, it's always for the positive. Even as a speaker, I learned so much from the other speakers, and I learned so much from the panelists. And just that reiterating of how much value we bring as women to the corporate space or the entrepreneurship space. It's always good to get that reminder and get those lessons reinforced. As an event, the Insights Breakfast, I mean, how long overdue, I love the fact that it's such an interactive event. People really get to ask the questions that they want to, and the questions that I feel they don't actually have the opportunity to ask. So I'm looking forward to coming back to the next session and just soaking up the learnings and for once not speaking. So number one is being obsessed with your why. Generally, as I said, you're not going to get paid the same as your male counterpart, and you're definitely not going to get the same respect as your male counterpart. So what drives what you do? What is the why behind the what? I'm obsessed with that, and I think I was very fortunate in working in women's media that I found my why very early on. I'm obsessed with women. I'm obsessed with telling women's stories. I'm obsessed with amplifying women's stories. Who says she's a woman enabler? I'm a woman amplifier.
When I started, the public relations industry was very male-dominated and still is in a lot of ways. Many of the companies that you see that are run are actually female-run but not female-owned. So it's still a very male-dominated industry. So I still deal with a lot of men in very high positions that I still have to convince of how amazing I am, and I'm not just kidding. And that is hard, guys. That is really hard. Because we grow up believing that our purpose or the only value we have in life is being wives and mothers. And no one ever thinks that you can be so much more than that. We are judged on the fact that maybe we don't want to get married. Marriage is not everybody's ambition. It's not everybody's achievement. Being a mother is not everybody's ambition or achievement either. So we grow up in society with these things where we are made to feel that to be a woman, you must give birth. To be a woman, you must be someone's chosen one. And that's not what it's about. And I think we live in a society where we very much feel like this is what we're supposed to be before we are businesswomen. Before we are anything else to anyone else, we have to be these particular women.
Farah Fortune, that was my highlight. Farah Fortune, her story is very touching, and she was very emotional as well. You could hear it from her voice when she was speaking that it really does go a long way.
And one speaker that also really contributed a lot with regards to shifting my way of thinking or shifting my paradigm is Farah. Man, so really that for me really stood out, and I like the fact that she tapped into her story. I don't think that there's so many people that can come through and make quotations and quote this particular author, but the best story you can ever tell as a human being is your own story. So your own story is amazing, and your own story can change the perspective of the next person. So yeah, more of these seminars and sessions.
Very insightful, a lot of fantastic speakers, especially in the entrepreneurial space as well. Just sharing about all the pitfalls in the entrepreneurial space and really just the hardships that people don't really cover for people in entrepreneurial. So yeah, I think there was great benefit here today with creating eye-opening experiences for many people who wants to step into being their own business owners as well.
We always hear, oh, she's got beauty and brains. We never hear anybody say that about men. Oh, he's cute and he's got brains. No. We just assume that they're going to be successful because they are men. Why is that? That's our fault. We did that. We put ourselves in a position to make us feel like we were second-class citizens. We did that. And only we can change that. The perceptions of each other. How many of you, honestly, and I'm seriously, honestly, how many of you walk into a room and look another woman up and down? Thank you for being honest. Thank you, ladies. Because that's how we are brought up. We are brought up to judge the other woman. Why is she, why don't I have those shoes? Oh, silly.
Well, I was very excited to be here. I was even more excited being here because it's such a diverse group of people, of women, and also diverse group of discussion. It was very exciting. It was very also good to hear from women who are not in the industry that I'm in, because that's who I'm mostly exposed. And I think it's a great idea to expose young people, budding entrepreneurs, to opportunities and spaces like this, where actually, how often are you going to get a chance to speak to a CEO of a 6 billion rand property fund, for instance? So I think it's a great opportunity, one, for the networking, but also the insights as well as the experience that some of the women here have brought. I think especially for younger women, we experience that harassment a lot more because you get into the office, I'm the only one within the team that's under 30, everyone else is 40 plus, for example, and everywhere you go, whether it's meetings, you go abroad, whatever, you're mostly in a space with men, and people just think that it's nice to be nice to the lady in the room.
It's difficult sometimes sitting in board meetings and being the only female, and then on top of that being the only black female, and kind of having to, one, voice your concerns without seeming as though, or question or voice matters that are important without seeming as though you're being emotional. And what I often, someone had said this to me, a previous mentor of mine, where I worked for an investment bank for about 10 years, and she had said, be smart, and be smart around what you, what your obstacles are that you choose to fight. So don't always fight every battle. Not every battle is worth fighting. And secondly, when you are faced with an obstacle, be smart about how it is you're going to get what you want out of it.
Today was a very important day, I think, specifically for young women, in getting a sense of being in a space with other women that have come before them, and unpacking and understanding that all their experiences are valid and that they're not alone in what they've experienced. I think it was collaborative, it was enjoyable, and I look forward to more engagement in the form of these spaces where women are there to be women with other women and help them forge the road forward.
Yes, there's definitely a place for femininity in sport, because there's a place for femininity in everything. I don't think it should be about sport or whatever it is. I think that, if you were talking about just being authentic and stuff, I think that a good athlete is an athlete who is themselves. They know what things they need in terms of, I'm going to train, I'm going to eat right, whatever it is, but they are themselves. I think that if you look at globally, the athletes that people really love and want to follow and want to know what they're doing, it's all people who are really themselves.
I really enjoyed today. I think I felt a little bit like, should I be speaking, because there were these amazing speakers that spoke before me. I think it's important, you kind of wish, I hope it ends up online for people to get to see this, a lot more people than were in the room. But I think what they've created in this platform is something that really should be taken possibly across the country or the continent even. It's good to create these kind of spaces. Only thing that I wish could have been different is for maybe more men to have been here, basically because of this specific topic. But other than that, I had a great time. I feel honored to have been part of this. And I really appreciate that, there are people like the Consumer Council that are creating space for people to have these kind of conversations and to challenge each other's thoughts and the things that they thought were the way that people should look at things, and for us to all get a different perspective and sometimes for others a wider perspective.